Hi, this is Wishop, and this is a tarot reading for the full moon, which is just at maybe almost 1 degree of Leo. It's also a blood moon because it's a lunar eclipse, which means that the earth is casting a shadow over the moon. We're on the earth in between the moon and the sun. So the light sort of wraps around the earth and casts a reddish glow onto the moon, making it look red. It's also a supermoon because it's very close to the earth right now. In Native American tradition, it's the wolf moon because it's this time of winter when the sound of the wolves howling really cuts through the cold, empty air. It is at, as I said, 1 degree, 51 minutes approximately, almost 1 degree of Leo, which means the sun is at the same degree of Aquarius. So we're working along that axis. So I will try to be brief with the astrological sum up and get to the cards because I think most of you are more interested in the cards. But I do want to say, because of the axis this is on, I see issues, disclosures. You could be making them, they could be made to you, they might be made in social ways, in organizations, in the larger world. But these will be revelations that will have to do with leadership, possibly betrayal of a mission or not doing what should be done to take care of the vulnerable. Children could be involved in it, so it could be issues of teaching institutions, other sorts of leadership. And there's a sense that the idealistic mission has not been carried out. Now, the other thing I want to say about this, people could come to you with disclosures about childhood, about childhood friendships, because Aquarius is also a house of friendship. So childhood friendships, you could come to personal revelations about those kinds of things. You could come to see a situation completely differently. For example, because Leo is also a house of children, that's why I'm sort of stressing these issues. You got kicked out of a friend's house when you were a kid, and it really hurt your feelings and made you feel unwanted and really had a profound effect on you. And all of a sudden that situation comes to mind for some reason, and you realize the reason you got kicked out is because, that friend's uncle had just got home and was very drunk and very untrustworthy. And so the mom kind of kicked you out to get you out of the way. That it was a protective act. It was not a rejecting act. But you couldn't see it that way because you were a child. And now you see it totally differently. And it's a real change. So it could be a redemptive thing, right? You could see a situation in a new way that redeems it in your eyes. You could also see yourself in a new way, a situation involving friends, involving your childhood. It could be a situation where you shared an organization with a peer, meaning you guys had the same leader, or you were coworkers. You see that differently. It may be a revelation to you that isn't so fun, where you realize things didn't go well, didn't go ideally. So I also want to say these revelations could also come forward not being true, because the pressure that you will feel and that other people will feel to share these things will also be felt by people who like to, I don't know how to say it, stir the shit, right? So just because a revelation comes through, if it's not your own, where you know it's true, you can listen with compassion, but you should be cautious about making sure that you know what it means, that you can believe it, that you can act on it in a strategic way and with the highest ethical integrity. because this could be a time, especially there's a lot of Aquarius involvement here. Mercury will enter Aquarius. There could be social media pylons. So let's say this is something of a public nature that happens in a public organization with a public leader who somehow hasn't done what they should do for the organization, or has failed to protect vulnerable people, has not carried that trust. Then, if there's a pylon where everybody wants to take a piece out of this person and you get involved with it, you could feel a great sense of righteous indignation about it. And everybody else could be just fired up just over a couple days with righteous indignation. And as facts start trickling in and maybe counter arguments or more information, that initial full-fledged response, if it's really severe, could be proven to be unwarranted. And in that case, you're going to feel the recoil of that, right? It's like a karmic backlash. I'm just going to give you a worst case scenario, but the kind of scenarios like when suddenly a group of high school people online decide that they're going to single out one person and harass them, and then they really harass that person who doesn't know why they suddenly became the target of this. And if they're not in a good place and don't have anywhere to go with those feelings and don't have a good way to unplug, they can take very drastic action to relieve themselves of that pain and of that unwanted attention and condemnation. And then if you were one of the people involved in that pylon, think how you'd feel to know that you put your coin in that horrible wishing well, that you put a wish towards someone else's destruction in a way that you would never want it to happen to you. This is a time when the golden rule is going to be on overdrive for all of us. So after a couple days after this full moon, after this blood moon, we're going to get support from other planets to sweeten situations, to bring more restraint, to bring more facts to bear. All that is coming. So we only have to hold on a couple days, but if the situation is really a difficult one, or the revelation is really shocking, it can be hard to hold your horses, right? But that is really what's called for, because this is all about example setting. If someone was supposed to be a good example and they have failed, you still have to set a good example for the way you would want someone to be treated, the way you would want their case to be heard. It's kind of the idea that you will have to act in the way that you would want your judge, your jury, your prosecuting attorney to act, even though the crime in your mind may be very difficult, horrible, unforgivable. You still would want people to act with the highest professional integrity, to do the right thing. That doesn't mean you have to forgive terrible behavior, but it means operating in an ethical and logical, reasonable way that is good for society, not that breaks down all the restraints of society. So that's kind of the darker side of this. If things start crawling out of the woodwork, some of the great things that happen is cool stuff will crawl out of the woodwork into your awareness, which could mean things you didn't know about yourself, capacities that you have. As I said, there can be a redemptive quality here, things that have laid dormant within you very deep that you've wanted answers to, or that you've suspected and you have been trying to pull forward. Now could be a time that those things really come into flowering for you. These darker parts of yourself, things you've been working on in private, things that have to do with your creative endeavors. Certainly the moon is always great for those. So where you've been working on creative endeavors, you could experience a real breakthrough. So it's a very powerful time. but it's a time where we're all going to need to be cognizant of the example that we set. So even if other people aren't doing their best, we all need to do our best. And especially where the issues of righteous anger come in, and online mob scenes, that kind of stuff especially, you're just going to want to make sure that you don't get involved in anything that you might have to regret later. So, okay, let's get to the cards. This is the gorgeous Astro Tarot deck done by Molly Applejohn, Eden Cook, Krista Gibbard, and Julia Iredale, who got together and made this fabulous collaborative deck. So let's see what we've got. I have no idea. Oh, look at this. Okay. This is the Page of Pentacles. I know we've got foxes here, but it's actually the Page of Pentacles, I believe. I'm going to check. Oh, no. Sorry, Page of Cups. Sorry. In this deck, some of the illustrations are a little bit different. This is the Page of Cups. I'll flip this. Oh, here we go. Love it. Queen of Swords. I really have done a kind of lousy job of setting this up. These things are not staying for me. Okay. Come on, everybody. Can't we be friends? Can't we all? Oh, come on. All right. I'll just have to hold them up one by one. Okay. And this is, okay, the Seven of Wands. So let me walk through these one by one, and let me actually refocus the camera since I'm not going to get them exactly where I want them. Let's just adapt. Okay. All right, so the first one I want to get to is this sort of central one, which is the Page of Cups. Now, look at this page making a fox shadow on the tent, and here are all these foxes watching it. And I think this is very good for this energy, because we think of the Page of Cups as being young and naive and enthusiastic. And those were some of the energies of this blood moon, that there can be over enthusiasm or a need to look out for the young or to think about your own youth. And there's a little bit of deception here, right? Because the foxes, who are real foxes, are looking at the false fox in the shadows. But this page doesn't have any bad intention to fool the foxes. It's an intent to entertain, even though it's a little bit of a fraud, right? And a lot of things are a creative fraud, right? We have actors and they're playing roles, and it's a creative fraud, but it's meant to take you on a ride that you want to go on. It's not meant to defraud you in some way that you're not aware of, or in some way that is harmful to you. So these little foxes with the Page of Cups are on a ride that they want to go on. But the Page of Cups always has to be aware of what is real and what is in shadow. And there can be an idea with the Page of Cups that they can be a little naive. So now's the time you want to be cautious, and you want to make sure what is real and what is image, what is imaginary. And you especially want to do that because we have this wonderful Queen of Swords here. So here she is, looking like a Hindu goddess, and she's got this gorgeous sort of design of like the beam of an eye held above her hand. And she has a water bird here, a symbol of sort of crossing the realms, and this curving sword. And she looks as if she is seeing all and is aware of all. And this is exactly the kind of attitude you want. This calm and insightful ability to determine truth. To determine truth, to act rationally, but also to maintain your sense of mercy and compassion. She's really the ideal of these characteristics in her best sense, and those are sort of being called to the fore. And then here we have the Seven of Wands. So you see all these little ladders and all these little people, and up here is like the biggest one at the top. And the idea is you want to maintain your high position. If you think of the way Seven of Wands often looks, we can see someone sort of playing King of the Hill. But it has the idea of valor, of courage, of sometimes it being hard to stay on the high ground. And I definitely see all of that here. So there's a lot of energy right now in earth signs and dealing with things that are concrete. But the advice right now, just for the next, couple weeks, we're going to have the new moon in Aquarius, I think around 15 degrees of Aquarius on February 4th. The advice right now is to really use the air, your mentality, use the cups, your heart, and use the wands, your will, your ambition, and your strength in social situations. You want to bring all that stuff together right now. You don't want to be so concrete. When I think of the idea of like throwing stones, this is not going to be a great idea to throw stones, because more facts will come out. And I truly believe that if we keep it together, we can come up with better solutions that will truly have a lasting quality, which is what we want to do. If we encounter shocking, awful situations that set the worst kind of example, we want to set a great example for fixing them, for resolving them in the appropriate way that actually deals with the underlying causes, rather than just gets outraged for this day or this week, and then next week it's another outrage of exactly the same kind. If we want to see lasting changes to systemic problems, and Aquarius definitely does want to see that, then we need to be discerning and cool-headed and strategic about the changes we make. And we need not to be too harsh or judgmental or to act too rashly, because that could definitely backfire, at least in this kind of charged astrological environment. So anyway, I hope you found that useful. I know a lot of you have already checked out my playlist, but I hope if you haven't, you'll see I have 7 different divination methods used for January, February, and March. So the first quarter of 2019, for each month, you have 7 different methods. I'm continuing to do my, moon readings. Those are a little bit different, but hopefully you'll give them a try. I'll try and remember to put them in the description box below and at the end of this video so that they're easy to find if you're looking for them. And until the next time, thanks very much for your subscriptions, for your likes, for your comments, as always. And until next time, rock on with your bad selves.